Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our brand new podcast, Floodlights, Camera, Action. Your home for the weekly reaction to latest films and football. From Emma Stone to John Stones, we'll cover the lot. I'm Jack, but a podcast is only because it's co-host, so every week I'll be joined by my good friend Veronica to dissect all things film and football. Veronica, how are you?
Thanks for the intro, Jack. Very natural and unscripted, as always. I'm good. I just came back from my holiday, so I'm feeling refreshed, relaxed. I'm ready to start yapping again. How have you been, Jack?
I've been good, but you say get ready to get back to yapping. I don't think you've stopped yapping, to be honest.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, little slide dig there. As you're all new, make sure you follow us on Twitter/X. It's at Floodlights Pod. Where we'll be sharing the latest updates concerning the podcast, asking questions, and always doing our best to interact with you lot. Right, enough jibber jabbering, enough of the boring scripted stuff. Let's get into the podcast. Veronica, I want to start with a question. We're going to ask. So the idea of the podcast is we'll do a bit of football, a guest section most of the time, and then a bit of film chat. And a question we're going to ask our guests every week is, rather than going, oh, what's your first football memory? I want to know who you support and your first, memory of footballing heartbreak or anger. So, Veronica, who do you support and what was those kind of early angry or sad memories?
So I am a Liverpool fan. I know, boo, whatever. Okay. I can't remember a first heartbreak. I think I was probably too young, but I do remember there was one time I got really angry. We were playing Spurs in the Premier League, and Dejan Lovren was having such a bad game. He got subbed off in the first half. We conceded, I think, 2 goals because of him. And watching him play that half made me so frustrated and angry that I kicked my PC. I kicked the disk drive into itself so that the plastic opening got stuck in the drive and I could never get it out. So I was never able to use the CD drive again. And if there was a CD stuck in there, it's now completely gone forever because of Dejan Lovren. So that is my first memory of strong emotions watching football. What about you, Jack?
Mine was less anger and more heartbreak. I was a wee lad, about 7 or 8 years old. It was the FA Cup final. I'm a Portsmouth fan, just to clarify. It was the FA Cup final against Chelsea. This is the year we got relegated from the Premier League as well, and I just seen us get relegated. And me as a young lad watching Chelsea beat us in the FA Cup final, I had a meltdown and started crying because I assumed it meant we'd never play football again, and that was us done as a football club. So yeah, that's how a young child's brain works, which is quite sad. But no PCs were hurt, unlike you, so I guess it's all right.
To be fair, you were done as a football club that day.
Yeah, but now look at us, we're
Okay.
back. We're nearly back. Give it like 2 years and we'll be back. Um, Going on from kind of heartbreak to kind of dreams and aspirations. Liverpool are a club that have had a weird couple of years. They've had Champions League
Yeah.
finals, cup finals, title challenges. Klopp's gone. Arnie Slot, who I'm sure you've done a couple of fan cams about, is the new gaffer. Less hair, but more Dutch, which is I guess an upside. What do you see Liverpool doing this season? What your hopes and aspirations look like?
I mean, I'm not sure. It's really hard to say. I think I just want slot ball to be entertaining. I don't really think about the results too much. I just hope I don't miss Klopp because I sometimes think of, oh, preseason's coming and Klopp's back, and then I realise that he left. I completely forget about it sometimes. I think top four is our aim, but I personally wouldn't be disappointed with top six considering the transition between managers, the fact that we've made no signings yet, and I don't even think we've had any concrete links to anyone either. So I am quite negative. I don't have any aspirations for this season. I don't know about you, Jack, with Portsmouth, probably a bit more positive.
I mean, if I was in the Premier League and I, spending tens of millions of pounds on players, I think I'd be a bit happier. But maybe that's just, when you get scarred by the EFL, you become a bit more positive when things are going right. I mean, yeah, Pompey have had a weird journey. Obviously, got relegated from the Premier League, a couple of years in the Championship, relegated, League One, relegated, a couple of years in League Two, almost getting relegated to the National League. That was a very real possibility. Around a decade ago or so, and then got promoted. couple of years back, kind of 7, 8 years ago, under Paul Cook. 7 years in League One we then spent. So many journeyman players, some crap manager, a good manager who, connected with the fans but just didn't do enough. And then finally last year, we finally get promoted in the most dramatic way possible. We had Barnsley at home, who were chasing the playoffs at the time. We were 1-0 down, brought it back to 1-1, 2-1 down, brought it back to 2-2 in about the 80th minute for a penalty at the Fratton end, which is the main Pompey end if you're unfamiliar with Fratton Park. And then in the last minute, our centre back from a corner headed it in to win the game 3-2. And there was a pitch invasion, and there was a night out that I've spoken about quite a bit, so I maybe won't cover that again. But there was a lot of drink and a lot of singing. So yeah, I'm extremely positive. But honestly, I'm taking survival in the Championship this year. Anything more than that is a bonus. All we need to do is stay up, and then over the next couple of years, we grow, slowly but surely progress towards the top end of the Championship, and try our best not to get relegated back to League One, because that would be horrific. But in the summer, we always have these huge dreams and aspirations. I mean, maybe not you, because you seem quite negative, but the fun part of the summer is always the transfers and the rumours. Weronika, what has Liverpool summer look like in terms of the transfer window so far?
I mean, we haven't done anything. We signed a 15-year-old from Chelsea, I think, and he seems like a good prospect because they didn't really want to lose him. But I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like other fans I've seen him play and get really excited, because I haven't. I don't watch under 15s football. I'm not a nonce, okay? And I don't
That's
think we're gonna
debatable. That is debatable.
okay. I don't think we're gonna buy anyone unless we sell. And I genuinely only think we'll make a signing to replace a departure. Personally, I would like to see that be Luis Diaz, but I'll get into that later. Um, we need a six. We need a defensive midfielder. Endo himself has been begging for one, so I don't know what Michael Edwards is doing, but I have to trust him to be working behind the scenes, because publicly there's nothing there.
Yeah, Pompey's business has been similar. I mean, we've signed more players than Liverpool because we needed more. That's the reality of things. We released about 10 players, so you need to do a bit more. But I'd say, yeah, our business has been solid but unspectacular. I mean, Josh Murphy, who's a left winger we brought in, was someone who I kind of begged for us to sign before the window opened. So I'm really happy about that one. There's been no bad signings, which is always a good thing. But none of them massively burned my socks off. But in terms of rumours, Pompey are very, very good over the last couple of years at keeping things very quiet up to the last minute. Sometimes, they'll drop a teaser and they'll announce signing. It'll be someone, that wasn't even in the discussion, and there was no rooms around them, which is great. But Veronica, I really want to get you more positive. I really do. I think we should focus on aspirations like we did earlier. Who are your dream signings this summer? Who do you think, who goes, oh yeah, that'd be really good, and that really, really excite me ahead of the season?
Okay. Dream signing. I don't care if we don't need him or if we have too many wingers. I just love Nico Williams. I've the only thing I've tweeted about during the Euros is Nico Williams, because I just love watching him. I think he's been my player of the tournament, and I would do anything for Liverpool to have this guy on the left wing. I would sell Diaz, definitely, if that meant that we'd sign Nico Williams. Gakpo is still there, and he was also really good for the Netherlands at the Euros. But for Liverpool, I still think that he's been underperforming, and Nico Williams is just much more exciting to watch whenever he's on the ball. So I don't know, get rid of both of them if it means Nico Williams for Liverpool. Uh, I just want to quickly mention, before I give a more realistic signing, that I don't know anything about football. I have negative ball knowledge. I make up my opinions based on my eye test and vibes, okay? Jack is gonna be the tactico analyst man, and I don't think anyone should take my opinions seriously. Having said all of that, as a more realistic dream signing for myself, I do really like Coop Miners from Atalanta. I think he's a flexible enough midfielder who is great at almost every role in that midfield, and I've enjoyed watching him play for Atalanta for the past few seasons. But I do think he will go to Juventus. Right now, I'm not expecting any signings to be made, but we really do need a defensive midfielder or any kind of midfielder who can play most roles because we will get injuries. We need to get them in before the season starts.
Yeah, I really like Koopmeiners. He's someone I've brought on Football Manager a lot over the years, so I fully support that signing. In terms of Pompey, it maybe isn't as glamorous. We had some really good loanees last season. Alex Robertson from Manchester City and Abu Kamara from Norwich, who we are rumoured to be back in for. They would probably be the dream signings for me, just because they're familiar, they're young, they're really exciting. In terms of a new player, I love James McConnell on loan from Liverpool. I think he'd be perfect for us. He really excelled, I believe, in the Carabao Cup final, in a couple of Europa League appearances, whatever it was. So yeah, he would be it for me. I'd love James McConnell. I think he's so exciting, got so much potential, and yeah, we've got a bit of a void in that midfield that we need one or two options in there. So that'd be really good. Just to we're coming towards the end of the football section now, but with all that said and done, I want to push you for an early prediction of exactly where Liverpool finish this season.
That's hard. I'm gonna say fifth. That's my official prediction is fifth, maybe or sixth, but my positive mindset tells me fifth. I'm not gonna expect anything crazy. I don't want Slot sacked for not getting top four. I think our defensive side can still be shaky, which we saw last season, and we will probably have a lot of injuries as we've had for the past few seasons too. Without the new signings, that would be hard to deal with again. And of course, we don't have Klopp anymore. We have a new manager. That's going to take some time to implement his style and give all the specifics of his roles that he wants the players to play. And yeah, I think fifth is fair. I don't think that we'll get any higher, but I'm ready to be positively surprised. What about you, Jack?
I think so. I said earlier I'd take survival, and I'd absolutely take 21st. That'd be great. I think 16th is a realistic prediction. That'd be my early prediction. I think that it's prone to change, could go up or down, but I think 16th could happen. All we need to do is get some of those loanees back, make a few more, not statement signings, because I think statement and marquee signings are a bit overrated almost. I'd rather just buy a good player that was underrated rather than maybe a player who's got a big name or a big reputation but isn't as capable within the system. But anyway, you don't want to hear enough. You don't want to hear any analytical stuff from me because it's very boring and I tend to drone on. To round out the football section, part one of 3 in this podcast. What games have you got lined up? Obviously, it's pre-season, but that doesn't stop you. That shouldn't stop you.
No, never. I can never be stopped from going to watch my footy. Okay. I think on Saturday I'm gonna go watch QPR Spurs. That's gonna be my first pre-season friendly. I guess next week I'll be able to speak about the other games I have lined up, but this weekend, one game, QPR Spurs, hoping for a QPR win. Hoping to see Ange and his beautiful beard live. And yeah, it should be fun. What about you?
I'm also quite jealous of Ange Postecoglou's beard because you can't see this on listen to the podcast, but I'm a baby-faced individual, which is not a good thing. So for full clarity, we're recording this on Tuesday, the 16th of July, and I'm actually going to a game tonight. I'm going to Gosport Borough versus Portsmouth, first pre-season friendly for Portsmouth. Very excited to see some of the new boys, including Sammy Silvera, who is supposed to start, a very exciting young winger. I don't tend to do loads of games in pre-season because there's quite a few crap fixtures. Pompey normally have their pre-season schedule, and I just don't really have time. But Gosport Borough is right at my doorstep. It's like a 20-minute walk. Always good fun down there. So yeah, next week on the podcast should have maybe some interesting stories from that game, or not. It might be the worst game of all time. I remember last season we were terrible against Gosport Borough in pre-season, and we scored a last-minute winner, and it felt very weird, cautiously celebrating that. Before we get into part 2 of the podcast, make sure you do us a massive favour, leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify, so people can, know how much you love the podcast and how great we are. And also, if you never want to miss an upload, and maybe you're on your commute and you go, oh crap, I forgot to download the podcast. If you go onto our Spotify profile, click the little cog icon, and then click auto download, you will never miss an upload, and it'll always be automatically downloaded to your feed for your commute or for your run or for whatever you are doing. Right, part 2. This is my favourite part, I'll be honest with you, because it means I get to talk about film, which is what I love to do. Veronica, I'm going to ask you your 4 favourite films, but we'll do one at a time. So if you want to tell me your first favourite film.
Okay. Now, my favorite 4 on my Letterboxd profile does change, and it's not really my favorite films of all time, but I rather keep it as 4 films I really like and I want to highlight. If we're talking favorite 4 of all time, for me, my number 1, since I've seen it immediately, it was Paris, Texas by Wim Wenders, and I just knew immediately after watching it would be my favorite film. I can't see it being replaced unless something incredible appears out of nowhere. This film is perfect to me in every single way you can think of. I was in awe of every frame from the very beginning. It has just beautiful cinematography. Every frame is genuinely like a painting, as many people have mentioned before. It has a brilliant script and some of my favourite acting performances ever. So that's my number 1 pick. What about you, Jack? What's your number 1 film?
I'm going to do this the other way around, and I'm going to go for my 4th favourite, just to really, ruin the fun. My 4th favourite is Little Miss Sunshine. I love a comfort movie, and I've not watched Little Miss Sunshine in a while, I don't think, but I remember last year especially, if I needed picking up, I'd whack Little Miss Sunshine on, because I just think it's such a beautiful film. I love the performances, especially Alan Arkin, who plays a granddad. Just that speech he does where he's sitting down on the bed with his granddaughter, and he's telling her why she isn't a loser. Yeah, just very, very special film. Steve Carell is incredible. I think he should have got an Oscar nomination personally, but it was 20 odd years ago, so I can't be too angry at it. And yeah, Paul Dano, one of the early star-making performances of his very underrated career, I think. I never really see him get spoken about enough in terms of Oscar conversations. But anyway, moving on. Veronica, why don't you tell us about another one of your favourite films?
Okay, yeah. Now they're not really going to be in order. They're just going to be 3 other films. My second choice is going to be La La Land by Damien Chazelle, purely based on the fact that I have seen it about 8 times now. I watch it every single year, usually when I'm at my lowest to get myself even lower, and I cry from the start till the end every time, even when it's the first scene of people being really happy dancing on cars and singing and shit, because my brain just keeps going to that final scene and I just get so emotional. I think Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling are just a perfect pair for a film like this, and Damien Chazelle is also one of my favorite directors. Quick little side fact, I did meet him last year in Venice. I do have a picture with him. He loved me, we went for dinner after. We didn't, but I wish we did. What about you, Jack? What's your next film?
So before we get onto that, I love La La Land. It used to be in my top 4. It's dropped out, but it's definitely, I'd say, top 10, top 15. And before I say my next favorite film, one of my favorite parts of La La Land is when Ryan Gosling's character Seb, he's walking Emma Stone's character to her car, and it turns out that his car was literally just down the road all along. He did this long walk with her, and it's just perfect, perfect. Do you have a favorite part of La La Land?
The ending.
Pretty good ending.
The ending is just, oh my god. It makes me feel something inside. When you have films that make you feel physically ill or physically upset, I think honestly that is a sign that you just watched an amazing film. Maybe not horror-wise. Maybe if it makes you throw up or something, and that's bad. But if it makes your heartstrings actually get pulled where you feel it inside. I think that's a mark of a really good film, and La La Land does that to me every single time.
Talking of films that pull on the heartstrings, my third favorite film is Before Sunset. I love Richard Linklater. He's one of my favorite directors, hands down. I love Ethan Hawke. I love Julie Delpy. I just I always flip between Before Sunrise and Before Sunset in terms of which ones are my favorite of the trilogy. And I think over the last year I've landed on Sunset being my favorite. I think for an 80-ish minute film, it just I've never seen a film maximize its runtime as well as Before Sunset. I think the conversations, I mean the ending is just I won't spoil the ending too much, but if you look at it, Ethan Hawke is sat down on a sofa and he moves his hand out of the frame as Julie Delpy's character says something, and it's just wow, especially when you see what's on his hand. But yeah, I won't. I could do a whole episode on Richard Linklater and the Before trilogy. I just think it's just masterful filmmaking and some of the best script writing I've ever seen. Veronica, name me another one of your favorite films. We're on a roll here. I'm really enjoying this.
Okay, my next pick, I have to choose a Yorgos Lanthimos film. I have to. I think, I mean, all of his films have been in my top four at some point. Whenever I watch his film, it goes in my top four automatically. But if I had to pick one, I am gonna choose Poor Things. You know how much I've raved about it. I was like the number one
Have you mentioned it
marketing.
before? I'm not sure you mentioned it before.
I did so much marketing for that film through speaking about it so much since I saw it at Venice Film Festival. Because, by the way, I did go to the premiere of this film. And Yorgos was sitting behind me. I think that I saw it about 5 times in cinemas. I haven't seen it like on TV or on my laptop because it deserves more than that. I will only see it again when it's back in cinemas. I don't think I've been this obsessed with a film ever. It's just a perfect balance of Yorgos for me. I think Emma Stone's performance was 100% deserving of an Oscar and is maybe one of my favorite performances ever. Um, I don't really care if people don't like it or they have negative opinions about it because I know that I loved it and I love Yorgos and I love Emma and I can't wait to see all of their collaborations.
Yeah, I was also a big fan of Poor Things. I've seen it twice. I gave it a 5 star when I saw it in cinema, and then I did rewatch it when it came out on Disney Plus, and it did go down to a 4.5, but still a very very good film. Another comfort film for me is my second favorite film of all time. Another short film as well. I do like shorter films. I love a long film. I love Lawrence of Arabia, for example, but I also love when a film can just really hit you emotionally over a really short amount of time. And also belongs to one of my favorite directors, much like you and Yorgos, which is Wes Anderson, and specifically Fantastic Mr. Fox. I think it's just there's so much special about this film. I think it's so well written. I love stop motion animation. I think George Clooney is fantastic. Really underrated performance actually. I think because it is obviously it's voice acting. It kind of goes under the radar a bit, but there's just so much emotion conveyed in his voice, and yeah, it's just a very very special film to me. And I think it's always been in my top four since I saw it. I saw it first when I was a kid, and then I kind of revisited it a couple of years ago because it was doing rounds on TikTok and stuff, and I was like, was it really that good? Because I remember liking it as a kid, but I put it on and I was like, yeah, I haven't logged it much on Letterboxd because I used to be a really bad Letterboxd user, and I didn't realize you could log films multiple times, which is very embarrassing. But yeah, I've watched it a lot over the years, and it's a film I love dearly. And for your last favorite film, Veronica, what earns that spot?
I think the fourth pick is really hard for me because I just love too many films. And I could sit here speaking about my top 50 and have something to say about all of them and remember where I watched them and why I loved them. It was honestly between two films, but I think I am gonna choose Portrait of a Lady on Fire by Celine Sciamma. I think it's also a perfect film, and like Paris, Texas, it is just beautiful to look at. The frames look like paintings again. I just love watching films like that. And it also personally made me realize a few things about a few things. So I appreciate it for that. So I think that has to go into my top four. The ending completely broke me. I couldn't recover for at least a few days. I'm not gonna spoil it, but God, whenever I see that one frame, it just kills me every time. Kind of like La La Land. I love a film that would just make me want to cry and break down, and makes my heart hurt a lot.
So my favorite film of all time, and I've recently, a couple of months ago, I got it on Criterion Collection, is Paul Thomas Anderson's Punch Drunk Love. I just think it is the most undeniably perfect film. I don't think you can. I don't think you can beat it. And obviously, a film is completely subjective, so a lot of people will dislike it. But I think the cinematography, the soundtrack, the performances by Adam Sandler and Philip Seymour Hoffman, especially, are just utterly magnificent. Elite direction, really gets you in the feels. And Barry Egan, Adam Sandler's character, is someone I relate to extremely heavily, in terms of what he went through, and kind of the characterization and the character direction as well, which I think is extravagant. So yeah, I think that together there's 8 really good films there, and I think we'd recommend them wholeheartedly. I know I need to watch Paris, Texas, and Portrait of a Lady on Fire. So those are 2 that I'll be nabbing off of Veronika's list. But yeah, kind of continuing on our favourites. Veronica, who's some of your favourite directors?
Okay, I think it's very obvious for anyone that knows me or has had any conversation with me about anything that Yorgos Lanthimos is my number one favorite director of all time. I just love everything he makes. He kind of gets my film brain and exactly what I want to see from a film. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but I just know every film he makes I will love. There's just that kind of thing that scratches an itch in my brain in every one of his films. And I mean, I did see the premiere of Poor Things at Venice, and when I turned around after seeing one of my favorite films to see him, the guy who made it, it's so surreal. He is incredible, and he's definitely my number one. There are others that I like that are a little bit lower down on a second tier, like Damien Chazelle, for example, and he is very handsome in person, by the way. I haven't seen First Man, but his other films I absolutely love. I think Babylon is actually close to being in my top 4 films, and I'm gonna fight for that film till the end, even though it got so much hate. It flopped so bad. So hashtag justice for Babylon, please.
Justice for Babylon. First Man's pretty good, by the
Please.
way. It's a pretty good film. It's not as good as his others, but yeah, it's a pretty good film.
I'll see it at some point. Maybe. I just don't want to watch a Chazelle film that isn't 5 stars. So, I don't want to take up all the time we have, because I could speak about my favorite director for a long time. But I'm just going to quickly mention Gaspar Noé as well, because I think he's a massive freak and should probably be jailed. But I also love watching his films. Climax and Enter the Void are both also close to being in my favorite films. I do need to finish his filmography though. I have a few blind spots there, but I do recommend those directors for sure.
Yeah, in terms of me, I've got a few like top tier favorites. My favorite of all time is Paul Thomas Anderson. I've completed his filmography. I can't wait for Vineland to come out. Yeah, I just Paul Thomas Anderson. It's reminds me of Scorsese films in a way. And yeah, I just love the way they're written. I love how sleek the direction is. I think not many other directors can get performances out of actors as well as he does. Another couple of favorites of mine, Richard Linklater, definitely probably number 2, and then kind of a generic pick for my third favorite. I'll go for Stanley Kubrick. I've not seen all of his filmography. I've maybe seen 6 or 7, but I've not seen a bad Stanley Kubrick film. I think I've given all of them that I've seen so far, I think a 4.5 or a 5. Very special. Honourable mentions to Wes Anderson and Martin Scorsese. I know Veronica didn't write down her favourite actors, but I did. I'll go through them quickly. I've got Philip Seymour Hoffman, rest in peace. Scarlett Johansson, who I actually think is incredibly underrated as an actress because she was in Marvel slop for most of her career. But I think if you look at Marriage Story and An Asteroid City. Very, very good performer. Tom Cruise, another really underrated actor who I love. Magnolia, one of my favourite ever performances from him. And finally, I love Julianne Moore. I've not seen loads of her films. I've seen maybe 7 or 8, but she is someone who, if I see her in a film, I'm much more likely to, much more likely to watch it.
I just want to say that I also love Julianne Moore if she's
Shout out.
listening. Shout
She
out.
better. She might do. She might do. Um. Anyway, moving on. So most of this episode has been about hope, aspiration, anticipation, and specifically on anticipation. Veronica, what are some of your most anticipated films for the remainder of the year, even if this year has been a little bit stinky at times for films?
I honestly can't think of too much. Maybe Anora after it's won the Palme d'Or at Cannes. Actually, I forgot to mention Sean Baker earlier. I also really love his films. And I'd say whatever they announce for Venice Film Festival, I'll at least pretend to be excited for because I kind of have to be considering I'll be watching them. So yeah, there actually isn't too much coming out towards the second half of this year. I don't know if you've seen anything, Jack, that interests you.
Yeah, I'd say similar to you. There's not loads that have excited me, but some of my really anticipated films, Gladiator 2. I love, 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 love the first Gladiator, even if it is a bit of a dad film. I don't think there's any harm in that. Paul Mescal, Pedro Pascal, Denzel Washington, just, what a combo. Nosferatu by Robert Eggers, I'm really excited for. I've not seen The Northman or The Witch, but I love The Lighthouse. I thought it was a really, really good film. And my most anticipated film of the year is actually M. Night Shyamalan's Trap, which comes out next year. Next month. I don't have to wait that long. I love Josh Hartnett. I've not seen loads of M. Night's films, but the ones I've seen I've been really impressed by. Sixth Sense is just iconic. But yeah, Trap, I'm very excited to see out with my girlfriend next month. And I've mentioned it there, but Veronica, have you seen the Gladiator 2 trailer?
Okay, short answer is no, even though you told me to prepare. But okay,
Episode 1 and the trust is gone.
listen, I just don't watch trailers for films. I don't like it. I don't like knowing what's gonna happen. Unless I'm at the cinema, I don't see the trailer. But I've seen the posters and I've seen the stills, and I think Denzel looks incredible, still extremely handsome, so I'm looking forward to seeing him and his performance. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit less excited than you are because I don't have much faith in Ridley Scott right now after Napoleon, which was quite disappointing to me. I'll say that I'm still waiting to see a great performance from Paul Mescal. Okay, I can see Jack's shocked face right now. Because I have not seen Normal People, and that's the main reason. I thought he was a bit average in All of Us Strangers. I think Andrew Scott looked a lot better in that film, and he kind of carried. So I'm still waiting for Paul to win me over. Maybe this is his time to shine, and I know he really cares about my opinion. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Paul Mescal. I've kind of dropped a little bit on him recently. I don't know why, but I think I've just been a bit more wild with other actors. But yeah, I think he probably should have got the Oscar for After Sun. If not him, it definitely should have gone to Colin Farrell for Banshees of Inisherin. But one film from Paul Mescal, I will talk about Gladiator shortly, I promise. But I think one Paul Mescal film that's really underrated is God's Creatures with Emily Watson. It's an Irish film about a small fishing village. Paul Mescal comes home, and I don't think I'm giving too much away here. He commits a sexual assault, which is horrific, and it's kind of about the mother's reaction to the child that she loves committing such a heinous act, and he is quite scary in that film. Actually, that's a really good one that I would recommend. Maybe not to everyone, but yeah, God's Creatures is a really good film.
Okay, actually, Jack, I forgot After Sun exists. So I take back what I said about Paul Mescal. He has one performance that I really loved. He still has to win me over, but okay, I forgot that film existed, and I apologize.
Yeah, After Sun was actually my top 4 for a while. It did drop out. It's probably my top 15 or 20 now, but in terms of Gladiator 2, I think you're very clever not to watch a trailer because you're right. And especially for Gladiator 2, it gives away a lot of the plot. You can basically put the whole film together from it. It's about 3 minutes long. I will say it is cool as fuck. It's a really cool trailer. I'm not sure why so many people were complaining about the what's it called now? No Church in the Wild being played by Frank Ocean. That is an incredible song and fit the trailer perfectly, but it is too long. All you need to know is that it looks really cool and really fun. And I'm a bit mixed on Ridley. I love Gladiator, but I liked the original Blade Runner, but it wasn't not as good as people made it out to be. But yeah, anyway, moving on to upcoming cinema trips. I don't have loads booked in, but I believe you do, or you at least had some recently as well that you could talk about.
Yeah. So since I've been back from holiday, I had to go back to the cinema, try to catch up with what I missed. I saw Longlegs last night. It was terrifying. I don't know how people are saying it's not that scary because it is. But I loved it, especially watching a film like that in a sold out screening. You could feel everyone's anxiety and tension. And I just want to say good luck to Jack watching that one because I know you're not a massive horror fan. It's not a jump scare horror, it's just something that will have you sitting there, like, you know, with the anxiety and tension
I
just
don't mind
filling
that.
your brain.
I hate jump scares, but I don't mind anxiety and like dread. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm the same actually. So I was kind of glad it wasn't like that. There's one part, I'm not gonna spoil it, but there's one part where she looks at something and then there's just these demonic satanic images on screen flashing really fast and that fucking terrified me, okay? I was actually scared watching a film for the first time in like a decade. So I love that one. And the plans that I have, I'm seeing Maxine finally on Friday, which I'm really excited about because I absolutely adore the first two films in the trilogy, and I love Mia Goth. I think she's brilliant in every film she's in. I've also booked Twisters for Thursday. I'm not really expecting too much. I haven't seen the original. The only thing that I really know about it is that Glenn Powell is in it with his dog. So I'm excited to see him and his dog. But maybe it will surprise me. I'm not expecting too much from it.
Yeah, I've not got loads of trips. I've not actually got any tickets booked to anything, but I'm gonna try and see Longlegs either Thursday or Friday. Twisters I do want to see as well, mainly because of Glenn Powell, who I think it's impossible to love Glenn Powell. If you want to see a really good Glenn Powell film, go watch Everybody Wants Some by Richard Linklater. It's like the ultimate hangout film. He's a great vibe. I first saw Glenn Powell in the rom com Set It Up. I love good rom com, and he was great in that. And then kind of in the future, you've got obviously got Trap and you've got Deadpool 3, which I'm slightly worried about. But that's something I think everyone's got to go see if you're into that kind of thing. But yeah, definitely going to try and see Longlegs, mainly because I like Nick Cage. So yeah, very exciting, very exciting. So if you follow me on Twitter, which you absolutely should follow me on Twitter, you will see that I recently went shopping. And when I go shopping, I always, always, always go to my favourite shop, which is HMV, the best place you should ever go and can ever go. And one segment we are going to try and get going is a little physical media update because I love buying films. Weronika loves collecting film merchandise. I'm sure she's got something to say about in a minute. In terms of this week's physical media update, I brought 4 Blu-rays, 2 of which I've seen, one of which being a Criterion, and 2 new. The first one I've seen is one of my favourites. Veronica hates it. It's Heat, the definitive director's edition. The 2 that I haven't seen, but one that Veronica loves. First is X, because I need to see it. I'm sure you're very excited about that one, Veronica.
Yeah, you have to watch them. You have to watch them, Jack.
I might do it tonight. The second one that I've not seen, but I'm very excited to see, is David Lynch's Blue Velvet, because it looks weird, and I like weird films. Not as weird as Veronica's films, but weird enough. And for my second Criterion Collection film that I've ever bought and owned, I got the Darjeeling Limited, which is, I've got it at 4.5 at the moment. It's probably my favourite Owen Wilson performance and one of my favourite Adrian Brody performances. Very, very special film. As I said earlier, Wes Anderson's one of my favourite directors. It was like 17 quid. I was like, yeah, I'll have some of that. And my last little bit I got is actually a book. As I said earlier, Paul Thomas Anderson is one of my favourite directors. but actually my least favourite PTA film is Inherent Vice, which is based on the novel Inherent Vice by Thomas Pynchon. So I thought, you know what? I was in Waterstones with my little student card because I'm a good boy. And I saw it there for a tenner. I was like, maybe, just maybe, the book will give me more appreciation for the film. So that is my physical media update for this week. Veronica, I heard you got a little package earlier. Am I right in that?
Yeah, I just want to say that I love physical media, and you showed me your new Blu-rays on screen, and they look so nice, and I'm so jealous. There's not too much of an update from me. I don't have any films, but I bought a Kinds of Kindness t-shirt. Okay, it arrived just before we started recording. It's perfect. On the front, there's a dog sipping a cocktail. Okay, if you've watched the film, you know what part that's from. And there's a quote on the back where Emma Stone's character is explaining how she lived on an island with dogs. And it's just so cool. I would do anything for Yorgos. Don't ask me how much it was. I also got a book. Well, not really a book, it's more of a magazine. I got the Kinds of Kindness issue of Little White Lies magazine that I'm gonna read very soon. They always have really cool art, especially on the cover, and some great interviews with anyone who's involved in the film that they're covering as their main kind of section. So I try to get the issues covering films that I really like because yeah, they should get more love. I'm not sponsored, but it's a very cool magazine.
Yeah, I would. Basically, this segment is just an excuse for us to spend more money and justify it because it's for a podcast. I don't think we can chalk it off as a business expense, but in my brain, it doesn't really count as spending money. But for the next part of the film section of this podcast, we're going to do this every week. Me and Veronica are going to set each other a film to watch. It's almost like a film homework. And you at home, the listeners, you can play along as well. You can watch along with these films. Most of them we're going to try and get it on UK streaming services just so it's more accessible, although the film I've set hasn't. So, Veronica, what film have you set for me to watch this week?
Okay, so the film I've set Jack the task to watch this week is one of my four favorites. It's Portrait of a Lady on Fire. So I think everyone should watch it because it's in my four favorites, which are obviously the four best films of all time. It's on Netflix in the UK, so it should be easy for you to access, and I want to hear your thoughts next week. If you hate it, I will not be coming back as your co-host.
I'll find someone else. I'll get Catherine to be my co-host. I've wanted to watch Portrait of a Lady on Fire for a while now, so this is a good excuse to. The film I've set you, Veronica, isn't on a streaming service, but we've clarified that isn't really an issue. Because you know you do illegal things, of course. Only joking. It is one of my favourites, and it's on your watch list. I've got it at 4.5. It is Licorice Pizza by Paul Thomas Anderson.
No. Okay, fine. I don't want to watch it, but I'll watch it.
Tough. It's a good film. It's a really good film. It's a bit weird, but not in the weird that you like. It's just morally a bit strange. But if you're at home and you're listening, but you know, feel free to watch along with us and give us your thoughts ahead of the next episode. We'll read out how you feel about the films, and we'll feed back to you next week. And for the last part of this film segment, and normally we're going to ask the guests this question, but we want to know, for the guests anyway, what one cinematic blind spot they've got. So, for example, a massive film, a massively famous film that they've not seen. I've got a few. Me and Veronica are going to say one each. My one, which is potentially shameful because I normally quite like these kind of films, I've not seen The Godfather. I've seen any of them, and I feel like that's quite embarrassing. Veronica, what cinematic blind spot have you got?
Okay. Well, actually, I have the exact same film, and it's also shameful. I also have The Godfather. I haven't seen any of them, and like I feel like if I've lived this long without seeing it, I could die without seeing it, and I know that's really bad. But I don't know. There's never been a day where I sit down and think, you know what, I'm gonna watch The Godfather today. I don't know. Yeah, we should be shamed for that. Maybe hung, drawn and quartered or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really want to be hung, drawn, and quartered. I'd just rather watch the film. I'm going to try and watch The Godfather this week or next week because I've got or a poster. It's like a 100 film bucket list that you scratch off. My girlfriend got it for me for Valentine's Day, I believe. You basically you scratch with a coin each film you've seen on it, and it reveals like a little poster. And The Godfather is on there, and I desperately need to watch it. So yeah, that rounds out the second part of this this podcast. All we've got now is a Q&A section. Again, we're going to try and do this most weeks. We'll probably mix in the questions into the episode, but the first question by my good friend Tom Williams, who submitted so many questions, but we picked our favourite one from Tom Williams. He asks, best appearances in film by footballers. Veronica, have you got a favourite appearance by a footballer in a film?
Yes. Yes, I do. And it's Vinnie Jones in the comedy film Eurotrip, okay? It's my favourite comedy of all time. I'm saying it. I'm locking it in. He plays a leader of a group of football hooligans who support Man United, and it's such an over-the-top performance, and it's so great. And for an American comedy film, they did such a good job of making fun of UK football fans in a way that is actually funny and not just annoying or boring. And I think his performance is just brilliant. Whenever he comes on screen, oh god, I just want to laugh already. Especially because it's laughing at Man United fans, of course.
So I thought we had the same one there, but mine is also Vinnie Jones, but not in Eurotrip because I've not seen that film. Mine, I'm going to double header, is Vinnie Jones in Snatch and Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. I think he's, when an actor's just having fun and he's just playing a hard man, and it's almost like he's not acting. Yeah, I think Vinny is one of those footballers you go, Vinnie Jones is an actor. He was great in Extra as well, actually, with Ross Kemp, the whole super army soldier type thing. But niche reference, but maybe one or two will appreciate. Veronica, what are some of the best films you've seen this year? Also from Tom Williams, I believe.
The best film I've seen this year that's been released this year is obviously Kinds of Kindness because I bought the t-shirt. I watched it again, I got the t-shirt, I got the book. There's not much else I can do to show how much I loved it, but I am of course gonna be biased towards any Yorgos film. It would have been lower than my favourite, but I honestly haven't seen anything much better released this year yet. Maybe it will change after the film festival films actually start getting released in cinemas in the UK, because we do have some distribution issues, cough, A24, cough. But yeah, it's Kinds of Kindness. I know it's not for everyone, but it's my favourite 2024 film so far.
So I've based mine on kind of weird UK release dates. My favourite film of the year, and I don't think anything's even come close really, is Dune Part 2. I've seen it twice in cinemas, blown away twice in cinemas. An honourable mention, although it technically didn't really come out this year, but it sort of did, is Fallen Leaves, which I know you've seen, Veronica, and I believe you like quite a bit. I've recently bought it on Blu-ray. A great rom-com, short and snappy, my kind of film. We've also been asked, and I believe this question is for you mainly, because you told me, leave me alone. I'm not, you're not answering this question. Someone's asked some good films for people that watch mainly mainstream films.
Yeah, okay. This is a hard question, but I want to help. Okay, so other than watching mine and Jack's favourite 4 films, which you should, of course, I think if I was to recommend kind of like a starter pack of films to get into film, it is hard because everyone has completely different tastes. As you've already seen, me and Jack do not have the same taste in film. We barely have any crossover in our answers, but we still love discussing it. I might be wrong in what I recommend, but I would say generally watch a Scorsese film, something like Shutter Island maybe you haven't seen. David Fincher films are really good to get into film, like Gone Girl, Seven, Zodiac, maybe something like Whiplash by Damien Chazelle. You need to try a lot of different things to decide what you like, but I'd say these are pretty universally liked starting points. They are quite mainstream, but if you haven't seen them yet, you really should. Moving on, if you want to start with some interesting things, kind of a different pathway into film. So these are films that you might hate, but you'll definitely have something to say. Of course, watch some Yorgos Lanthimos, watch Dogtooth or The Lobster. If you want to cry, do watch After Sun by Charlotte Wells, where Paul Mescal does give a good performance. If you want something that will leave you very confused and high, watch Enter the Void by Gaspar Noé. And also, my final recommendation for a weird little film is Requiem for a Dream by Darren Aronofsky, because that film is gonna fuck you up. And you need that sometimes. But honestly, find a cinema that shows less mainstream films, like in the UK, a Picture House, or a Kazan, or a local independent cinema, and go watch something that you don't know anything about. You might not like it, but you've kind of taken that step to watch something new. And they have memberships, these cinemas. There are free memberships sometimes for under 25s. You can sign up for and you get discounts on tickets. They have film clubs. I know that Picture House does a film club where they curate films that cost you £1 for a ticket. So yeah, just go and watch a film that you don't know anything about. Or watch the films that I recommended. Or the films that Jack likes. Just go watch films, basically, is what I'm trying to say, to figure out what you like.
So just touching on that very quickly, because I think Veronica has given so many fantastic examples there. If you like Martin Scorsese and you delve further into his filmography, definitely watch After Hours. It's my favourite Scorsese film, and leads very on nicely to Veronica mentioned their local cinemas. If you're in Portsmouth or in the Portsmouth area, in the historic dockyard, once or a couple of times a week, not over the summer, but in the autumn to summer, there is a cinema, a little independent cinema in the. I believe they use the Action Station screens, biggest screen on the south coast, I believe. It's called Number 6 Cinema, really well priced. They do some new films, some old films, some foreign films. They do a little loyalty card, which is in my wallet, and you get little stamps. And on your when you see 10 films, you get one free. Really good people. Volunteer run. I'd love to work with them one day because I think they're just fantastic at what they do. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out for Number 6 Cinema in Portsmouth. The next question is pick a cast to play Southgate's England tenure. It's kind of the England squad. Southgate. We won't answer this week, but just as a little teaser, we are planning to do some smaller bonus episodes, kind of here and there. So maybe to kind of merge film and football, we might cast some of the England players and Gareth Southgate. But from Ali, my good friend Ali from Just Another Football podcast, which is fantastic, well worth a watch/listen. Ali asks, just intrigued as to the link between film and football on the pod. Looks like a unique idea and I look forward to it. Veronica, how do you kind of explain, I guess, why this podcast exists?
Okay. I mean, great question from Ali. A really hard question to answer for us, I think. It will mostly be a structured format like this episode where we have separate sections. If someone wants to skip the football section, they can, especially on the YouTube video. We will have timestamps. We want everyone to listen to the whole thing though, of course, because we want to convert football fans into film nerds. Maybe vice versa. I don't know how that would work. I don't know why you'd start watching football after listening to our podcast, but maybe someone out there will. Have also planned the special episodes that Jack mentioned that will be based on something that combines both of these things. I'm not going to spoil our plans, but we do have a lot of ideas for those. So you have to trust us that there are some crossovers coming and they will be really fun and creative. But we also do want to provide a platform and an opportunity for guests who might only be known as football fans or football creators or even film creators or fans who want to be able to share their opinion on the other subject that others might not know they are also passionate about. So if anyone would be interested in being a guest and talking about something they usually don't talk about, let us know.
Yeah, we got some very fun guests that I've not messaged yet, but we've got a little list going of people that we want to get on. Some very good talkers who I'm sure we will reveal in no time at all. Morgan Bruce, my good friend Brucey. To combine football and films, thoughts on the Goal trilogy? Veronica, I know you've not seen the Goal trilogy, shamefully, so I will. I'll cover this one. The first one is an iconic film, one from my childhood that I love. Santiago, your father. Anyway, incredible film. Second one is okay. It's not as good, nowhere near as good as the first one. The third one is awful, really bad film. Don't recommend that. Definitely watch the first one and maybe the second one, but yeah, don't watch the third one. I remember I first watched them. We used to go on holiday a lot to the south of France, and we'd drive down from Portsmouth to south of France, and you download loads of films for the journey. And I remember I downloaded all the Goal films, and that was basically a full journey. That was great. Next question is, if you could sum the EFL up in one film, what would it be? I'm gonna go. Veronica, you can jump in afterwards if you have an answer, but I'm gonna go for Goodfellas. It starts off where everyone has this big idealized dream of success at the beginning of a season, or at the beginning of the film, and then it ends in misery. Veronica, have you got any, maybe a Premier League or an EFL?
Not really. I listen. I saw EFL. I didn't read the question. I thought that this is Jack's wheelhouse, and he'll definitely have a great answer. So I don't want to get involved.
That's a very political answer. I do respect it. Next question from Gunnar Mateus. I probably butchered that surname, so I do apologise. Are there any specific movies that you associate with the specific football club you support? Veronica, any movies that you associate with Liverpool or Gladbach or
Yes.
anyone?
Okay, you need to hear me out. You need to hear me out, okay? Sit down, Jack. You need to hear me out. Liverpool, okay, I associate with High School Musical, right? You just choked on your water. I have multiple comparisons. I have evidence that show how right I am, okay? Listen.
Let her cook.
You'll Never Walk Alone is basically a slowed down version of We're All in This Together, okay? Yeah. Szoboszlai is Troy Bolton, okay? Because he looks great. He's always doing something other than playing his sport, which, okay, let's not go into that. Trent is Gabriella, because he's hated on for really not much of a reason. He's called overrated. He's told that he has too much screen time, okay? Especially for England. Sorry. Sharpay is Salah, because he is actually the best player at the club, and he should be the main character, and he's my favourite, okay? Okay, there is a Sharpay spin-off, but it's actually quite bad, so let's not get into that. Chad, who is the other basketball player, Troy's best friend, is McAllister, because he's underrated, and he's actually better than Troy at the sport of basketball, which in our case is football, but whatever. The guy who bakes cakes and muffins and stuff, Zeke, okay, that's Endo, because he's the backbone of the film. He's cooking in the background, and he's also a nice guy. Jack has been laughing the whole time. Ryan, Sharpay's brother, is Darwin Núñez, because he's pretty good at what he does in moments. Like, he's not the best singer, but he does his job. But he's not as good as Sharpay, Salah. And maybe he should switch to baseball or dancing. And then Luis Diaz is basketball player 3. So there we go.
I'm so glad I muted myself that because you wouldn't be able to hear. I was laughing. So that's one of the best answers I've ever heard. That is, I wasn't prepared for that. I've gone very boring with mine, similar to the Let me just compose myself for a second. Similar to the Goodfellas answer, I would compare Portsmouth to the Wolf of Wall Street. Minor spoilers here for Wolf of Wall Street. Beginning of the film is the FA Cup / Premier League days where we were spending beyond our means, but we were living the high life. You know, we're making memories. We're drawing against AC Milan at home, and they had to bring Ronaldinho to save the day.
And doing cocaine.
And doing
allegedly.
I wasn't doing any cocaine because I was a small child, but there was probably some cocaine use at some point. And then it all goes to shit, and we end up in League Two, which I've just got brackets prison. So my answer is nowhere near as good as Veronica's, but I think Wolf of Wall Street compares pretty well. Anyway, for the last question, I'm not sure if you've got an answer for this, Veronica, but I definitely do. It's from Reece Jones. He asks, which footballer's life and career would make the best biopic? Veronica, have you got an answer for that, or is this one of mine that I've got to handle?
I had an answer, but it was a bit serious, and I don't like giving serious answers, but I can just quickly mention that I would say Polish Borussia Dortmund legend Jakub Błaszczykowski, because if you look into his childhood, it was actually kind of insane. I'm pretty sure that he watched his dad kill his mum. Someone could definitely make a film about that being his start and then going on to becoming a brilliant footballer because, yeah, really traumatic childhood for Błaszczykowski. I don't know if many people know that, but
Yeah, I didn't know that. That caught me off guard. Mine is in comparison a bit lighter. Mine would be Danish footballer Thomas Gravesen. Because I've seen quite a few podcast stories about him, about he's like a big gambler and he's got he was a bit of a ladies' man. And I think if you have like a Tarantino slash Scorsese slash PTA type film where it's cut really fast, the dialogue is really really sharp, it's like really high octane, high energy. I think you've got like a really exciting film there, especially with some of the stories on that. For example, Simon Ferry has spoke about. I think Tommy Gravesen. I think there's some really good ideas in that. I mean, yours is probably a bit more less stupid than mine because we've seemingly flipped roles and you've gone serious and I've gone silly. But
yeah, sorry
yeah,
about
no need to apologise. But that wraps it up. That's it. We're at the end of our first ever episode. We've made it. There's totally not been any technical difficulties or me accidentally saying cut and the podcast being mixed up. Anyway, less about that. A bit of an introduction to us was this episode. We talked about our favourite films, about football, what we like, what we don't like, and kind of a bit of a taste to come for when we get started properly, which will be, I guess, now. I guess it's kind of us for wherever. We'll try and get past 2 episodes. That's the dream. I've had a fantastic time. And Veronica, I hope you had a great time too.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's been really fun. And we do genuinely believe in this being a consistent kind of venture for us. And we're working a fair bit behind the scenes. So anyone listening is appreciated always. This is kind of like our creative outlet that we do outside of studying, working. I was going to call it our baby in the script, and then I realized that was a little bit strange. So, anyway, we will be back next week, possibly with a special guest, so please do stay tuned.
Yeah, for now, make sure you drop us a follow on Twitter /X and YouTube. It's Floodlights Pod on both of those. Make sure you drop us a 5-star rating on Spotify and click auto download like we asked you to earlier. Veronica, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. Let the people know where they should follow you, mainly to watch some incredible Honest Slot fan cams.
Retired from making slot fan cams, so please do not look for them on TikTok. Honestly, just follow the podcast socials at FloodlightsPod on Twitter /X. If there is anyone listening who would like to send us anything, film, football related, sponsor us, be a guest, or even just have a question, feel free to send us an email, floodlightpod@gmail.com, or send us a DM on our Twitter account, floodlightspod, and we'll make sure to answer. That was a bit of a beg from me, but I don't know, maybe there's a prince watching or something.
Yeah, you never know. We might have some royalty following us. That's the dream, anyway. For me, yeah, make sure you follow me on. If you're interested in football, follow me at Hancock Analysis on Twitter. If you're more interested in film, at Film Hancock is probably the one for you. I've got a YouTube channel as well, which is Hancock Film Reviews. I don't upload too often, but when I do, it's a solid 5 out of 10 videos. So really exciting stuff. But until next time, we'll speak again very soon. Until then, keep watching, keep consuming, and adios.